So your album, though, has just come out last Friday. So in the middle of all that, what was it like releasing a record?
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you, this record has just been, it was not planned. It was not something that I thought about doing. I had never written music before. And in the course of a year, literally almost a year to the day, back in, this would have been July of 2020. I just had a series of events that sort of happened in my life that kind of led me to a crossroads of what am I going to do now? I think a lot of us were there, obviously, with the pandemic and whatnot. But I had some other things kind of going on, and I thought, I don't really know what to do now. And so the great thing about being quarantined was when things get quiet, for me, it's a lot easier to hear from God. And I felt like God told me it's time to write. And I feel like I heard that very audibly. And I had tried writing when I first moved to town and did it for a while, and it never really was kind of my thing. And so I had just given up on that years ago. And so when that thought started coming into my mind, I was like, no, I don't do that. I'm not going to write music. No, I don't do that. And within a few weeks, I got a phone call from Jim Moose Brown, who is a Grammy award-winning songwriter, fabulous musician, producer, just all around good guy here in town. And he said, hey, if you ever want to just work together doing something, even if it's just writing, let me know. And he said it just like that, even if it's just writing. And I thought, okay.
Right.
Well, I can take an open door. That's fine. So we started writing together. And in the first day that we met, in fact, we had never met in person. The first day that we met, we wrote the song Easy, which is the second track on the album.
When all I hear is a noise, just the whisper of your voice makes it easy, so easy. One look from you is more than enough.
And but we started writing together, and over the course of a few months, we realized, wow, we've written a lot of stuff. Maybe we should try to do something with this. And that was, I guess, maybe in May.
Yeah.
And this thing was released in September. So it all has happened.
That's pretty quick.
Very quickly and very out of my control. It's all kind of just manifested, which has been wonderful. But I'm very, very excited about people hearing this and being able to put my own words out there for the first time.
Well, I think people should take note that anytime a man named Moose calls you, answer the phone.
Answer the phone. Yeah. And he gets that name, honestly. I don't even know. He's probably 6'5" or something. Like he's just this huge, tall man. Yeah. Don't mess with Moose.
Very good. So when you did meet, this was in August of 2020. What kind of conversation, how did you get to the point where you could write together?
It was interesting. We kind of knew each other just through Facebook, through social media. I mean, I, of course, knew his career and things like that. And we had mutual friends, but we had never met. So we got together, we met up at his studio and just kind of had a very small talk kind of conversation. Where are you from? What's your story? That kind of stuff. And we talked for maybe an hour or so. And he said, well, what do you want to write about? And I was like, are we doing that? I thought we were just maybe meet,
just hanging.
Yeah. And so I had written down Easy and kind of had an idea of what I wanted that to be. And I told him about it, and he pulled out his keyboard, and I told him kind of the feel that I had in mind and whatever. And he starts playing, and I was like, that's it. That's it. Yeah. And so we started kind of throwing out ideas and just, some things that I had written down and some things that he was putting in there. And of course, the musician in him, you can hear that in all these melodies on this stuff. Yeah. But we finished it within 3 hours maybe. And we just both kind of looked at each other like, that's not normal. That doesn't happen. It really doesn't. And over the course of time, every time that we have written together, which this is going to sound like I'm making it up, but every time we've written together, we've started and finished the song in the day that we.
That's pretty incredible.
It is. So, I mean, technically I can say over the course of time, but we wrote 10 songs in 10 days. So this album,
It's just the days were spread out a bit.
It's spaced out, but that's pretty much what this record is. And he and I both talk about that, and we're just like that. It's amazing. It's crazy.
Right, right. So when you're actually making the record, I mean, he's quite the multi-instrumentalist as well. So I see that from the credits, he's playing pretty much everything except for a few exceptions. So did you have a discussion about sound and feel and all that stuff as well?
We did. We always talked about that with everything that we were doing. And what was great about it was the thing, you know, I don't play an instrument. I'm a drummer. So I don't play guitar. I don't play piano. So I've got rhythm. I got that whole thing going, but as far as melody wise. And so when we would start to write these songs, they would have a feel almost as they were, as they were coming out. And so I think if you listen to this record, and it's aptly titled All Over the Map, you hear a lot of different influences that I have had over the years that just sort of made themselves known through these different songs. And so when we would sit down and a couple of these songs that are on the record are the demos that we had made. So that's why Moose is playing on, there's some of them that he's playing, I think, every instrument on, because we had just demoed them. And then we were like, well, that's kind of cool like that. I don't think it needs any more. I don't think it needs, And so, he played on a lot of it. We had some excellent musicians come in and do the things that we needed the full band on. But it was really, the music part of it is so beautiful for me to watch. I have enjoyed that side of the recording process for many, many years. I love to watch the musicians. I love us to see a song be born. And that's what they really do. They bring it to life. Right. And I am in awe of the musicians that played on this record. They're just fabulous.
So you mentioned that there's influences from throughout your life that are apparent on these songs. Perhaps you can tie a couple of them together for us.
I can't. Yeah. Well, of course, country music is what I grew up listening to. And so you're going to hear country throughout the album. There's nothing on there that I would say is not country. I can't help that. That's just the way it comes out. But there's a few tunes on here that sort of have maybe a more blues kind of a feel or sort of an R&B kind of feel, because I love like Ray Charles. I love Aretha Franklin. I love that kind of stuff. One of the songs we actually wrote, it's called Storytelling Time. We wrote it in Muscle Shoals.
Oh, right.
At Fame Studios.
It's storytelling time. It'll only take a minute. About to lay it on the line. You ain't gonna wanna miss it. Here's the cold hard truth. It's short and sweet and cruel. So listen up, lean in. I'm out. The end.
In Rick Hall's office. It wasn't going to sound like anything but Muscle Shoals because we were just, completely covered in there. But there's that kind of a feel. There's one particular song on here called What's a Girl to Do? Right. That sort of has a very Sinatra-esque kind of feel. And I love Frank Sinatra.
A corner table. The crowd is gone. It's a 8:15 and I'm here all alone. That old clock keeps on ticking and it echoes the truth.
So, all of those things were kind of melded together because that's all a part of who I am. And it's been fun for people to discover, like, oh, you do that too. Oh, you do that too. And there's a song on there that's called There's More to Me, is essentially kind of saying that, like, this one part of me, but I want you to know all of me.
I'd rather be out in the dirt than in a nail salon. And my radio don't always play a good old country song.
It's very kind of country honky-tonky kind of
and
song,
it's a super honky-tonker. Yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you have someone named can't read my own writing as usual. Is it Mo Pitney singing background on that?
Mo Pitney, yeah. Mo's actually singing on a couple of these tunes. He's such a fantastic artist. He's just as traditional country as you can get. He's a great guy, great songwriter. And in fact, Moose had produced Mo's last record. That was how Moose and I had reconnected. I was commenting on how great I thought Mo's record was. And so and so Mo came in and sang on a few things. We've done some shows together in the past, and he's a wonderful guy. And his new record called Ain't Looking Back is so good.
Now, speaking of shows, you haven't done any in a while, have you?
No,
but you got one coming up, don't you?
Yeah, well, I do have one coming up, actually. I actually just played the Grand Ole Opry this past a week ago today. I had that. Yeah, so that was a pretty big show. And it was my very first time at the Grand Ole Opry house. I've played the Opry before, but it's always been when they were at the Ryman. So I have now I can say I've played the Ryman and the Grand Ole Opry house. I've stood on the circle and got to sing songs that I wrote, that was pretty cool for me. And then we've also got a show coming up October the 2nd at the Bluebird Cafe.
Right. Yeah.
And I've never played the Bluebird before. So that's going to be really fun to do a round with Moose and with Don Sampson.
I've just been watching the Nashville TV show, the series.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching it a while back and then somehow lost connection with it and picked it up again.
Sure.
So, and they're just doing
And they were all at the Bluebird. Like that was at the Bluebird a lot. And actually, if you just a fun fact here on the Nashville television show, Raina's band, if you look at the lead guitar player, that's my brother-in-law, Steve Mandel. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
So is it a realistic depiction of Nashville or is it pretty dramatized up?
Let's
face it, it's a soap opera, but
it is. And it's a little dramatized, obviously, and it's not quite so easy as they make it seem to be. The music business is tough. It's hard. And not everybody just gets, hey, we're going to put your song on the radio. That's just not the way it necessarily happens, but it's a fun show. And I think it really raised people's awareness of Nashville and of coming here as just to visit or to vacation and to kind of see all the sights. So that was a good thing.
So you've been doing the music business thing for a little bit now. What kind of advice would you give an up and comer who's trying to make it?
My main piece of advice that I would give would probably be to be yourself. Mm-hmm. Don't change for anyone. If you are confident in what you do and confident in what you believe, do that. Don't try to fit the mold. Don't try to, sound like everybody else, because that's whatever, you know what I mean? That's what the world's looking for, is something that doesn't sound like everybody else. So that would be my biggest thing. Cause I think when you move to town, it's easy to get influenced of, well, if you were doing this, it would work. If you were doing it like this, it would be, and don't get me wrong, take advice from people, but stay true to what you know to be your sound and who you are.
Cool. Now, obviously, we have to talk about the final track on the record. That's What I Know, because you got Vince Gill singing there and Dan Dugmore playing along with you. So how did that all happen?
What I know is nothing tastes better than Grandma's fried chicken and a big glass of tea. And what I know is love's right beside me, and his hand fits in my hand so perfectly. In the time that I'm here, I'll choose love over fear and just let the rest of it go. And that's what I know.
Oh my gosh. So that actually is the demo of that song. Yeah. We had written that one, and we both just really felt like it was an important thing to say. And so Moose called Dan and had him come in and put the steel down on it. We had Janae Fleener come in and do the mandolin part. And we just loved it. And he said, is there anybody that you would that you use regularly to do your background vocals or anything like that? And I was like, no, not really. I said, just, whatever you think, if you've got somebody you use. And he says, well, what about Vince? And I was like, oh, well, okay, if we're just going to start there, sure, why not? I was like, of course, yeah, that's, that'll never happen. And he called him that afternoon and Vince was like, I love her. Of course I'll do it. And I was like,
nice.
what? And so, so he came in the studio and it was great. And I'm so happy to have him on that song in particular. Just because that song is really meant to help you find comfort in all of the chaos that's going on in the world right now. Yep. And I feel like Vince's voice is comfort embodied, like his vocal is so comforting.
And I see you made a video for the song as well.
Yeah, we did. We shot a video in my hometown. I'm from Lowry City, Missouri. Missouri, yeah. And it's a teeny tiny little place. But I thought, I feel like that particular song and kind of what we're talking about, that is where I learned what I know. That's the place where, the things that were born in me, that's where they were born, is those things. So you'll see my elementary school, you'll see the church that I grew up in, you'll see Main Street, where there's a line in the song about my grandma's fried chicken. Yep. And the restaurant in the background is called the Landmark Restaurant. And that is where my grandma was the cook and made the fried chicken. Nice one. And they still to this day serve her recipe of fried chicken. So I can still go back and get a piece if I want every now and then. Right.
Well, the shot of you in front, I think it was a brick church, right?
Yes.
I grew up in Western Pennsylvania in a similar tiny little town called Springboro, about 500 people. Yeah. And the church there looks exactly the same. And I'm looking at it going, was that shot in Springboro?
I know that place. Yeah.
So it shows how universal that stuff is,
Absolutely. It is. And I think everybody, that looks like everybody's hometown and, little things like that of little, especially if you were born in the country, that's just where it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting also because my experience with country music, having grown up in a tiny little town like that in the 60s and whatever, I hated country music. That's what all the grown-ups listen to that stuff. And, and I was like a rock and roller and I was into punk rock and stuff in the 70s, but now it's, you wait long enough and it all comes back to you.
All of a sudden you go, oh, now I get why they all like this. I see now. Yeah, exactly. So true.
So, so when you do your gig at the, next week, what are you doing just all songs from this? Or you do you have a band?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
The Bluebird Cafe is actually just going to be a writer's round. We will be there. Yeah, it'll be very acoustic and we'll be doing all the music that we've written. And what's great is I'll be doing obviously all of these songs from the new album. And Moose, he's got some great songs and he's got some really funny songs that are just, the show is very entertaining. And Don Sampson will be there as well, who wrote, Midnight in Montgomery and Waiting on a Woman and all those great songs. So you will get a little bit of everything with the three of us. And it's very interactive with the audience. The Bluebird is such a small venue. If you've watched Nashville, you've seen that it is that you are right in everybody's face, and it's really fun. It feels like you're just sitting in the living room playing music, and so I'm really, really looking forward to that.
So, are you looking at this as like the second part of your career, or a new version of it, or how do you relate to it?
Yeah, I think I am. It's been really interesting. Just like I said, this past year, I feel like I've grown a lot. I feel like I've learned a lot. With this record in particular, I've become my own record label. I've become my own publishing person. I've become, it's literally every piece of it I've had a part in. So I've had to learn the whole music business, and it's crazy. That, it is, and it changes daily anymore. It's different every, and so that has been a real learning curve, but I feel like I'm in a different place. And I feel like I'm just looking forward to what's next and just to kind of see where this goes. The songwriting part of my career has started off with a bang, in my personal opinion, for myself, just because it's something that I needed to do. I felt like it was something it was very therapeutic for me. So I'm excited to see where that leads.
So are you writing more songs now, or are you kind of waiting for a reason to write them?
Well, it's been funny through all this. Like I say, when I'm doing all my own stuff, that's where my brain has been recently, has been, the distribution and all that kind of stuff. But as time has gone, I've kept a notebook that's got ideas and little things and little lines and limericks and things, so that when it's time to sit down and really start focusing back on that, I'll be ready to do that. In fact, I just talked to Moose on the phone earlier this morning, and he goes, "We need to go to lunch. Maybe we need to write another record." And I was like, "Maybe so."
It sounds like he could do it during lunch.
So we're already thinking that way. Granted, this has only been out a week, but
Right.
but yeah, I think the writing will definitely continue. I don't know how soon we'll have something else out, but the writing will certainly continue.
Right. And did you do anything exciting on the release day?
Actually, I played the Opry.
That's right. Well, that's pretty exciting.
Was completely, yeah. Well, and it wasn't really planned that way.
Right.
They knew that the record was coming out, and they were like, "Hey, we've got a spot open on the 17th." And I was like, "So I'm going to debut my record on the Opry? Okay, let's go." So yeah, that was really cool. And then my parents and my sister and my husband and my niece, we all went to the Cracker Barrel afterwards and had a celebratory dinner. So yes. We're very fancy out here in Nashville, but it was a really good night. It was.
I've been to the Cracker Barrel many times down in Florida, where my family.
I'm telling you. There you go.
There you go. Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing all this with me. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I hope the gig goes well at the Bluebird.
Thank you.
And we'll look for the next record too.
All right. That sounds good, Marty. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.